Coming up next, right after the break, farmers in the Upper East region are complaining they are not benefiting from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture's fertilizer subsidy scheme, despite government's huge investments in the program. Government spends about 200 million Ghana cedis annually importing these fertilizers, which are supposed to be sold to farmers at 50% of the original market price. But as a result of alleged corruption, smuggling, and poor management of the scheme, farmers are not getting them. Joy News Upper East Regional Correspondent Albert Sori reports that farmers are calling for a reform of the scheme.
In July 2019, a resident of Soin in the Bolgatanga municipality, in connivance with some unscrupulous officials, allegedly diverted about 900 bags of subsidized planting for food and jobs fertilizers to his home. The government fertilizers in these trucks from Accra were unloaded at a private residence late in the night instead of the district agric offices. It took the vigilance of some residents who informed the police to stop the illegality. In that same month, police in the Upper East region intercepted 1,000 bags of subsidized fertilizers at Navrongo that the smugglers were attempting to go and sell in Burkina Faso.
Sometimes you just see a car loaded with bags of sugar. You would think it is sugar, but it is fertilizer that they have put in sugar bags. They open the sugar bags and put the fertilizer inside and resew them. There's one Burkina market, Nyungu. They pass through Sapelga, some part of Sapelga to the place. When you get to the market, you even think that is Ghana because of the amount of fertilizer that they send there.
These illegal activities involving the fertilizer subsidy scheme are rampant across the country. The result is that the ordinary farmers are not benefiting from the scheme.
Selfish people, yes. Wicked people, people who are saboteurs to our economy, to the vision of Nana Akufo-Addo, are determined that they rather steal the fertilizer and give it to Burkina farmers instead of our own farmers. Isn't that sad?
Alhaji Ahmed Bogobiri, a farmer plying his trade in the Tono irrigation area, says he and his colleagues are not benefiting from the subsidized fertilizers.
There was a time, I think in 2018, I went to Tumu. I met various articulated vehicles loading the fertilizer towards Burkina Faso. And there was an instant when I got one articulator packed. Now, obviously, I was so curious and asked him what do they have in the vehicle, and he told me fertilizer. And I asked them, where are you sending it? They were sending it to Leo, that's Burkina Faso. Between the villages around the Kassina Nankana, there are routes that go into Burkina Faso, and some of our farmers too have seen it.
Bukari Issa is a farmer at Jantega, a border community in the Boko municipality. His recent attempt to access the subsidized fertilizer scheme was fruitless. He recounts his experience.
We are just the last barrier before crossing to Burkina. If you heard that fertilizer has come and you have gone in to buy, they will tell you that you are not supposed to buy 10 mini bags as a farmer. So if you are lucky and you buy it, the following day you will hear that fertilizer has finished, knowing that they will just carry this fertilizer and cross it in the night. Some will even bring with the fertilizer, without even offloading it, they will just cross it.
Women farmers are finding it more difficult accessing the subsidized fertilizers. Boko West-based farmer Gilberta Akoka is one of them.
We suffer a lot. Women at that time are not seen. You go there, they push you up and down because they think that we women cannot buy fertilizer enough. No, I think it's just the cultural belief that women are not, you cannot compare yourself to a man. That's all. I think that is just that cultural belief. And also because they have a selfish mind. They want to do that so that When the men have bought enough, they smuggle out.
Alhaji Bogobiri blames the alleged corruption in the scheme on a decision by government to hand over control to private companies instead of the district offices of Agric, which hitherto managed the program.
Why is it that when the Department of Agric was handling it, we weren't realizing such smuggling? Because at that time it was cashless. You go and pay to the bank, bring your documents, and you are supplied. And now it has been deviated to the dealers. And obviously dealers are businessmen, and government officials too, knowing very well what they are. The system is corrupt. They will say they are supplying some quantity of fertilizer to a district or a region, only for you not to, there's no announcement for us to know that this region, Upper East, government is giving you this number of fertilizer. This time it is silent.
Even the criteria for selecting the qualified private fertilizer companies remain a mystery, as there is no transparency in the process. Although the distribution guidelines allow a maximum purchase of 15 bags, that is not being adhered to. Even non-farmers are allegedly buying more than the 15 bags. They then turn around and sell to farmers at a higher cost. Those benefiting from the subsidy scheme don't have to show any form of identity before they are allowed to procure the subsidized fertilizers. Reverend John Akarebo is a farmer and the Upper East Regional Focal Person for the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. He says these developments are frustrating the ordinary farmer.
We don't have representation. If the farmers would have representation at the regional level, then we can equally communicate the same to our districts. So when they know that this district we are allocated with maybe 50 bags or 100 bags of fertilizer, if you know it in the first place, you can be able to monitor. But you don't even know. How do you even monitor? When it comes to plant seed, they will say, oh, they haven't started yet. They haven't started yet. And when they start, it doesn't take farmers 2 weeks before we realize that fertilizer is short in the system.
The non-deserving beneficiaries, conniving allegedly with government officials, then smuggle the subsidized fertilizers out of the country to go sell at a higher price. As the Minister for Food and Agriculture admits, the situation is frustrating government's efforts to make the lives of farmers better.
That system of coupon was meant to facilitate the supply of fertilizers and seeds to the farmers. As it is, people are manipulating and selling the coupons to farmers. About 15 cities, somewhere we were told. 5 cities, 15 cities. And they are selling to the smugglers because the smugglers need this fertilizer they smuggle to Burkina for them to be able to come with evidence to me in Accra that they sold to the farmers. Yes. And stealing. And stealing is criminal.
Clifford Amwa, who is the programs manager for the Organization for Indigenous Initiatives and Sustainability, August Ghana, which supports 6,000 women farmers, says the lack of transparency in the scheme is worrying.
Out of this over 6,000 women that we are talking about, not even up to half of them were able to have access to this fertilizer in the previous production season, which is very difficult for them and is not helping to increase the level of productivity they would have gotten.
The Minister for Agriculture has repeatedly assured that those responsible for such illegal acts will be dealt with by the security agencies.
We are not going to allow this to go on. We're going to punish people. We're going to throw people in jail to serve as a precedent and a warning to others that what belongs to the poor person, you don't take it.
But the farmers say their efforts to get the security agencies to take action over the years have not been fruitful.
The security agency, immigration, for example, gave reasons that where they cannot cope to make arrests over those who are smuggling. They gave instances where their pickups are not roadworthy, and certain times it is very dangerous to check the smugglers.
We have some farmers, and they have their friends across. Their friends can even give our farmers money to go and buy the subsidy and transfer. This is a big problem. We report, but the report, it doesn't help. If you report it, it doesn't help. It is politics. Politics has changed everything.
In the night, some people come with motor kings, and then they collect the fertilizer and go and cross the borders in the night. Some go with donkey carts, and it is in the night. And as a woman, if you even see, I have not been licensed. I don't have any authority. So even if I want to intercept and they get me, they can do anything to me. So I just see they are passing with it, but I cannot say don't go. Even the police, they know, not that they don't know, they know, they see, but they take their share and then they go.
So, what do the peasant farmers think could be done to solve this problem once and for all? Abdul Rahman Mohammed and Dr. Charles Inyaba are president and head of programs and advocacy, respectively. They want a comprehensive reform of the scheme.
Well, in the course of our discussion this morning, we'll bring the Peasants Farmers Association and their thoughts on this. But joining us for further conversation on the back of what Albert Sori filed from the Upper East region, of course, Charles Nyaba, Head of Programs and Advocacy, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, will be with us. The Deputy Agriculture Minister, Yao Frimpong Addo, will also be with us. But Joseph Opoku Gakpo, usually you would hear him as a correspondent in Parliament, but he's also Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Agricultural and Rural Development Journalists Association. And recently, I think about a month ago, you came up with, after research which sought to suggest that 3 out of 4 farmers don't benefit from the scheme. And so you came up with some reforms. First of all, tell us about your petition.
So essentially, we've been paying attention to some of the challenges within the agricultural space that deserve some attention, and trying to bring everyone's mind to it, as you would say it in a very literal manner. And the fertilizer subsidy scheme has come up as one of those very key issues deserving attention. A concern with the poultry industry, which maybe some other time we would get to, has also come up very strongly, that the farmers are struggling with getting access to market for their produce and all, and the poultry farmers are struggling. Or the fertilizer subsidy scheme. So across the country, we engaged farmers at that very low level, at the very district level, and did a survey of a sort, trying to get a sense of how this scheme is benefiting farmers generally. And essentially the idea is the fertilizer has been seen to be one of the very expensive commodities that farmers are struggling to gain. So with the subsidy scheme, government brings them in, facilitates its distribution, and then the farmers are supposed to pay about 50% of the price of the fertilizer, while government takes up the rest of the 50%. But the concern is that because of these alleged corrupt acts, alleged smuggling, then the farmers are not getting access to the subsidized fertilizers, so then they are still forced to go to the open market, which is more expensive. In fact, over the weekend, Rafik Salam filed a story from Upper West about how there is shortage of subsidized fertilizers in the scheme, and the farmers are complaining about it. But annually, more than 207 million cedis is invested in this entire fertilizer subsidy scheme by government.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and the figure has been going up. This is actually a figure from 2017, 2018. And this is another interesting bit. Just in 2017 and 2018, the Planting for Food and Jobs Secretariat itself reported that just for those 2 planting seasons, an amount of 120 million Ghana cedis has been lost as far as investment in fertilizers that had gone waste through unaccounted for fertilizers, the absence of the coupons and the tracking and all. So mismanagement of the scheme in just 2 years did cost the state 120 million Ghana cedis, according to the Planting for Food and Jobs Secretariat. And these concerns have been there for God knows how long now. This is a scheme that was introduced back in 2008. We all know that fertilizers are an important component of any agricultural production. And that's what actually informed the whole idea of the fertilizer subsidy scheme. And if the farmers are not benefiting, but taxpayers' money is being invested in the scheme, someone needs to sit up. It's either we are dealing with the challenges so the farmers actually benefit, or then we stop sinking money in a basket. That's very much legal.
Absolutely. We'll come to why the association, for instance, thinks that if we don't have any reforms to the scheme as we currently do, then we're likely to see it collapse. But let me bring Mr. Charles Nyaba, who's head of Programs and Advocacy, Peasant Farmers Association. He's joining us also on this conversation. Good morning to you, if you can hear me.
Good morning.
Great. So first of all, let me get your thoughts on the subsidized fertilizer and how some farmers are complaining that they can't get it. Meanwhile, we know that it's been smuggled to Burkina Faso, for instance.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me say good morning to the Professor Depo and the Honorable City Minister. Yeah, I'm currently on the field. I've been on the field for the past 2 weeks to engage my farmers on the, usually when the new farming season starts. Because peasant farmers cut across the nation to travel to see what is going on. And everywhere I went, especially the valley, where it is now a time for them to apply fertilizer, you cannot even find a single fertilizer in most of the fertilizer stores. Now, let me also draw Opoku's attention that contrary to previous weeks that we do talk of smuggling of fertilizer, I don't agree with those who claim that the shortage is due to smuggling. There is no smuggling so far, to the best of my knowledge and the experience I've had on the field. The fertilizer is not even there to be smuggled. I am privileged, the ministry allowed me to bring 6 trucks of fertilizer, that is 12,000 bags of the 25 kg. I'm telling you, the queue that the farmers follow to come and use this fertilizer from the start before it even came down. You can't imagine it. Yesterday, 2 of my trucks came in the home. The whole town from the community boys and everything, they all came there to remove the fertilizer. I'm in my house and there's a queue in my house to see how they can get the fertilizer.
Okay, so what is the issue then?
The issue is that there's no fertilizer on the field. Now let me give you the history. There is increase in fertilizer price global. So the current government asked the companies to import the 150 Ghana cedis that they are supposed to sell the subsidized fertilizer. The cost of bringing the fertilizer to Ghana is higher than 150 Ghana cedis. So according to the company, if they bring the fertilizer, they won't be able to sell at that because they are also making a business. So it is about 3 companies who are able to bring fertilizer this year. All the other companies that government gave them license to bring fertilizer, all of them have spoken to them, they've not been able to bring fertilizer. So if you remember, just the day before yesterday, a meeting was held with the fertilizer company. The government has to even adjust the subsidized price from 48 to 53 Ghana cedis. But that is not enough because now fertilizer application is seasonal. And this is the time that the fertilizer is needed. So since the fertilizer is not there, even if with the adjustment, if the companies are able to bring the fertilizer late, the farmers might not use it. Or they may use it and it will not bring the benefit that we are looking for.
Okay, just hold it there. Let me bring into this conversation the Deputy Minister for Agriculture, Mr. Yao Frimpong Addo, who's joining us via phone. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for your time on the AM show.
Good morning.
Okay,
thanks for listening.
Great. First of all, I want to start with your tour. You went to the middle belt of the country not too long ago. I want to find out what you picked on the ground. What are the challenges of farmers?
Yeah, thank you very much. And most grateful to you and your crew. The rounds took us to Ahafo, Bono East, Ashanti, and Eastern regions. And what I understood the minister on the tour was that it's something that he doesn't want to be an armchair minister. He visits the regions, I think, twice a year, find out the situation on the ground. So certain issues came up, and among them, especially women in agriculture, those in rice farming. the inputs that they require to be able to become more productive.
Like the fertilizer.
And the issue of fertilizers also came up strongly in all the areas that we visited. We also picked this issue of poultry, the shortage of feed for poultry farmers, and all that. So there's a whole lot. And we also saw a lot of agro-based industry also springing up in some of those communities that we visited. It was a worthy cause that we undertook. And
okay.
It brought certain issues to the fore as to how we can take agric to the next level.
Okay, so can we talk about the issue of the fertilizer? Can we talk about the issue of the fertilizer and what assurances that you gave to the farmers on the ground, particularly in Bono when you visited?
Yes, we are just 2 weeks in the ministry. Myself and my colleague, Honorable Hardy. So it was a kind of learning exercise for us.
Okay, so
I'm coming. So what we intended to do was to pick certain things on the ground, so that when we take off fully, we know the challenges facing agriculture, especially with this fertilizer issue. When we went, it came up that there is a shortage of fertilizer in this community for the farmers. The focus of the PFC was the smallholder farmer. And the issue is that there is not much land in some of these areas. So the little land that they have and they are cultivating, what we need to increase their productivity on that same small land. But if the inputs are in short supply, then it means that farmer that we say we are going to support is in trouble. So this fertilizer issue, because of the shortage and reading around and listening, putting my ears on the ground, what I gathered was that some of the suppliers could not meet the deadline for supplies, due to certain challenges that I'm yet to find out. Yes,
okay.
They still say there's a shortage of fertilizer in those areas that I visited. I cannot talk about the other areas, but these regions that I visited, it came up strongly everywhere that we went.
Okay, great.
And because of that, it's affecting even prices. I mean, some individuals have brought in some of these fertilizers. The market prices, the open market prices, most of the farmers cannot afford. That's the reality.
Okay. So part of what we're doing, sir, is to also hear the kind of suggestions that some groupings have come up with for reforms. So there's a farmer association. And my colleague Joseph Opoku Gakpo is the head of the Agriculture and Technology Desk here at Joy News, but he's also the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Agricultural and Rural Development Journalists Association. And they've come up with some suggestions. I want us to hear him because the group did some research and they say that if we don't immediately carry out some reforms, we will collapse the whole fertilizer scheme. So Joseph, the Deputy Minister is listening. Let's hear the suggestions that you make as a group.
Mama, if you don't mind, just before that, this latest concern that Dr. Charles Naba brought up, that currently, even beyond all the challenges that we're drawing attention to, currently there is general shortage in the system, as we've as well heard the Minister confirm. My colleague Elton John Brobe did a story that's on my Joy Online. That's all to detail what the problem is. Just to quote brief versions of that. Checks have revealed that the Planting for Food and Jobs program is likely to be a white elephant since government is owing companies who have been providing fertilizers to these farmers. Then the story goes on to say that it's been revealed that the Finance Ministry is refusing to release financial clearance to the Agricultural Ministry to pay these companies. As to why the ministry has delayed, no official reason has been assigned, but sources have hinted that there are a lot of issues that are playing out, which is resulting in this. No fertilizer has been distributed to farmers from April to July because companies engaged in the program are finding it difficult to fulfill their obligations to the banks and continue to import more raw materials for fertilizer production. And then the story makes the point that the companies say they can no longer continue to finance the program as they used to, and according to them, the banks are unable to support them in the wake of government continued non-payment for fertilizers distributed to farmers.
So when was this story filed?
This story was actually filed just yesterday.
Okay.
It's under the heading Finance Ministry blamed for delaying debt owed fertilizer companies under the Planting for Food and Jobs program. Okay. It's written by Elton Brobe, and it's actually out there on my journal.
Okay. We will give the Honorable Deputy Minister, we know that he's still settling in, so he may not have you know, all of the answers, but we'll give him an opportunity to react. But tell us about...
Quickly, so these are the suggested reforms based on the old known challenges that the scheme has faced all this while, as we've sought to draw attention to. That first of all, we should see a situation where the whole scheme is seeing a kind of reform that puts farmers at the very center of it. The whole idea that the Agri Ministry operating from Accra, although they have district offices, can find a way to get fertilizers distributed across board one way or the other without the necessary involvement of everyday farmers who are very much on the ground. And there are a lot of farmer groups. Some of them have very strong structures right from these district level to the national level. The Farmers and Fishermen Association, the National Farmer Award Winners Association, the Peasant Farmers Association, as we engage in them. So let's see a kind of reform where there are existent district committees of a sort that have farmers at the very much center of it, who are very much aware of the amount of fertilizer coming to the various districts for the necessary distribution. We think that's very key.
Transparency.
That's very key to ensuring transparency. If eventually, when the fertilizers become available, they would get to farmers. That's one of the key things that we're asking for. Beyond that, we would want to see a situation where, as far as the various processes are concerned, these concerns about smuggling and unaccounted for coupons when it comes to fertilizer, they are real. They are very much real. The problem we've seen is that when some of these things happen, no one takes action, nothing gets done. We see arrests happening, the people are let go after 2 or 3 days, the case die, there is no real prosecution. The deterrence in that aspect of it is non-existent. We need to see more of it, and in our petition, we made a point to the Minister for Food and Agriculture that we would want to see him collaborate more with his colleague, the Attorney General, and the Interior Minister, and bring some of those to book so that then one way or the other, it serves as a deterrent. And then more fundamentally, we would want to see a situation where a whole audit should happen of the scheme. It's more than, 12 years now, since 2018, so that then that audit will reveal what the other weaknesses are that would then allow for a situation where recommended measures should be rolled out. We've been doing this for, 12, 13 years now, the same way we've been doing it since 2008. Nothing has changed. But the reality is that the farmers are not benefiting from it, even when the subsidized fertilizers are available, which is why that audit is needed to then define the way forward in terms of how things should be.
Okay. Charles, before I come to you, Honorable Deputy Minister, if you heard Joseph outline the issues, before that he read another story, whatever you want to react to, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. And if I could tell you that I'll meet him in Parliament today to continue the discussion. Yes, some of the reforms, I agree with him that they are proposing. But you see, Pogu should also know the farmer associations, wherever you visit, if you met farmer associations, that there's no way any ministry can operate, especially the Ministry of Agriculture, can operate in the district without working through the farmer association. I mean, as a private consultant for years, it is something I've done over all those years, talking to farmers, because without them, there's no way you know what really is the problem. So that one, maybe we have to go into it a little bit deeper and see what is the role of the district directors of agriculture. And all the, let me also go to this certain Brobe's thing. All this is happening because of what happened in the COVID year. Most of the shortages that we are seeing are the consequences of the COVID situation that the whole world found itself. It affected almost everything, and agri is no exception. It affected everything. It has affected supply. It has affected money inflow. And we are in this situation not because somebody is deliberately sitting on fertilizer somewhere or money somewhere. It is a case of the world in crisis. But the minister on our rounds gave assurance to the farmers. And look, it is true, we are going through all these things, but it is something that will pass away. The way we are talking to the suppliers and all that, I'm pretty sure that we will get these things settled, especially in the north where they are now starting their cropping.
So the issue with the finance ministry, though, has it been cleared?
That much, I'm not in the know. I'm yet to find out from the minister if it has been cleared. But he gave the assurance, so we met some of these farmers, that very soon this thing will be over.
Okay.
They are talking among themselves in cabinet, and he sent several things to the presidency, and I'm sure that the way he is passionate about this issue, because plenty of food and job is his baby, and he wouldn't want that baby to die so early. He's in his fifth year now, and he wants to see the baby grown to an adult so that the food security that we all care for will be ensured.
Okay, so sir, just hold on for me, because Charles Nyaba has been getting queues. People have been queuing in his home looking for fertilizer. So let's hear him with what he has to say now that you're listening. Charles?
Okay. Thank you so much. Honorable, I'm currently in the Upper East, Navungo to be specific. Yeah. Yes. So let me first of all try to confirm some of the issues that Mr. Opoku raised. We had a meeting with all the fertilizer companies, including the ministry, and they confirmed that the highest company that got paid is 30%. And those are about 4 companies that got that 30% payment. The rest of the companies have not received a payment from the Ministry of Finance. And that's one of the problems. The second issue has to do with global fertilizer price increase. And I agree with the minister that there's a shortage global. So the companies, the manufacturing companies, prepare to sell to India and China compared to Africa. So that's the other issue. Now, the issue of smuggling that Opoku raised, let me also confirm that this fact that the ministry gave me to give the farmers, you will not believe that smugglers came to me that they could buy the fertilizer 2 times the price that we are selling to the farmers. Wow. And I thought I was going to call for their arrest. And they vanished in the place because promise remains. So the point I'm making is that what Opoku said, we have farmers, I know the farmers. So this fact that we're giving everything, even the director of Agri, came around and he has to come and buy for me. Because I'll tell you that, look, if you're buying more than 20 bags, I'm not giving you. Wow. And I'm there to ensure that the fertilizer is actually going to the farmers. Now, the challenge we are likely to take is that, because we did a campaign to promote Ghana rice last year, when it comes to northern part of the country, you take the police staff, the Yaba, all the police, the valleys around it. People have increased their acreage to the extent that government even supported by clearing the land for them. All those people, their rights is ready for fertilizer. They can't even get it to buy. Even the open market fertilizer is not available for them. So that's the challenge. So if you don't find immediate solutions to these issues, it's actually likely to affect the farmers so much, and our food security situation coming next year. Now, Minister and his team visited DA. You see, the challenge is not that much in the southern sector. Southern sector, the fertilizer consumption is low. The soil fertility is still good compared to the northern sector. For northern part of the country, where we do large-scale cereal production and the lands are virtually infertile, if you don't put fertilizer, you are not going to get anything. And this is the time for us to act now. So to me, I agree with all the recommendations that he gives. The ministry tells me to look at it. The fertilizer program needs to be reformed. And the recommendations we are giving within government is venture down. There are a lot more people who buy this fertilizer not to apply on their farms. But to take it to either Burkina or to Togo to test. So it will get to a point where government is targeting farmer groups who have their members on the field.
Okay.
Once you give to them, they go their members and they will supply the fertilizer to them. Okay,
so Charles, let's allow Mr. Yao Frimpong Addo to react to what you've just said.
Yes, Doctor, whatever is happening in the north, we are very much aware. although I'm new in the ministry, but because of the exigencies of the times, I've been reading and listening to a lot of such concerns all around the country. And you see, the northern sector, as you rightly said, is the food basket of this country. And if such a situation is happening over there, any minister will have his full attention at the place. So last year, but for the northern region, because the rain failed us in the south, middle and southern belt, but for the northern region, that gave us all the food that we boast of right now. We're going to have crisis as far as food security is concerned. Therefore, all the concerns that are being given now, we are taking everything on board, and hopefully, I know the minister is also listening to this program. This morning, when I get to the office, I will go to him, brief him, other colleague, about the situation, and we are very much aware of it.
Okay.
We just have to gather everything that is within our power to help the farmers get the fertilizer. The prices is a problem, and then the availability. There are two issues: availability and price. And if you are faced with these two key things in your food basket, then you need to work extra hard to get the problems resolved.
Okay.
So there's nothing for anybody to deny. I mean, or whatever is happening there is real, and we just have to get our eyes together and then try to resolve these problems to help the farmers.
Okay. Well, sir, we will leave it here, but as you said, Joseph is in Parliament with you, so he would be bringing us the updates as and when you do get it. But thank you so much for joining us on this conversation with your perspective. So Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, Yao Frimpong Adu, also a member of Parliament, joining us. Charles Nyaba, thank you so much for your time as well. It's good that we put it out there, and the Deputy Minister has followed the conversation. So we'll be going back to him and bringing the new development from this story. Thank you very much for your time. He's Head of Programs and Advocacy, Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. But Joe, with regards to the petition, what did the minister, because you met the Minister for Food and Agriculture, what did he say?
The document was dispatched. We are actually still awaiting the
But he's in
response.
Parliament with you?
No, the minister himself
yes.
Is not a member of Parliament. Dr. Koto Usefri, so it's the Deputy Minister, who is actually new in the system, who is still gathering
trying
all the
to settle
and settling in. He's rather in Parliament. So yes, so that bit of the conversation in terms of reactions and following up on it would actually happen. But just to make this point, just yesterday, even the United Nations released a report that's confirmed a bit of the point that we've heard Dr. Nyaba and the Minister speak of, about how COVID-19 is negatively impacting food security. It's impacting the global supply chain. It's negatively impacting logistics in terms of moving food and input from one place to the other. And then the report drew attention to how more than 118 million more people are actually faced hunger in 2020 compared to 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So admittedly, that's a bit of the problem. But what I think we should be cautious of is pushing blame elsewhere and using that as a basis to probably escape responsibility and explaining everything out and insistently making the point that because of these challenges, these problems can continue. How come that after all these years of farming and calling ourselves an agrarian country, we still import virtually all the fertilizer that we end up distributing to farmers? To the extent that today COVID-19 pandemic is impacting the supply chains. What has stopped us from developing our local industry so that then in fact, we are in a republic where we import seeds, including even sometimes tomato seeds from our neighboring countries and all. We need to change some of these going forward if we can build a resilient food system that can stand the test of challenges like COVID-19. And with all of these issues playing out and the recent complaint about fertilizer subsidy and all, attention needs to be paid to the likely impact of this on food security and how things will pan out in the coming year. We're hoping for good rains, but without the necessary inputs, food prices may end up skyrocketing and all, which is a huge challenge that we need to pay attention to.
Well, thank you, Ghana Agric Rural Development Journalist. I like the petition. I like the suggestions that you bring on board, and I like very much that you're following this issue, because I think most of us have been concentrating on the other matters, but this is the one that brings food, and without food, we're nothing really.
We are very much grateful to yourself and your team.
So keep following up on this, very important issue. It spreads across, as we've seen. It's everywhere really in the country. So we would like the updates when we do get updates. Thanks, Joseph Opoku-Kapo, also head of our Agric and Technology Desk here at Joy News.